Ladies and gentlemen, Merritt Minnemeyer is about to come on talking about leading with extraordinary. And also, we had her on a little bit ago talking about choose love, choose you. My goodness, like if you are out to empower yourself to be your greatest possible self, this woman is going to activate you. She's doing amazing things, involved with amazing causes, big projects that are changing the world. So definitely stay tuned. And I also want to thank you. I want to acknowledge you for being here, for choosing to be your greatest possible self. And all you have to do is say, I choose to be my greatest possible self today. Go ahead and say that to yourself out loud, silently, write it down, whatever you choose. And just remember that it's a choice away. You just have to choose. You just get to show up and say, today I'm going to do the best that I can. And so I acknowledge you for doing that. I know you're the type of person who wants to do the best that you can. So thank you for being here, for tuning into this, for being your greatest possible self. And keep growing, keep going, stay plugged in to the sources of inspiration, empowerment, encouragement to help you grow into your GPS. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Next up is the iTunes review of the week. Let's see who it's by this week. M. Davis 777 says, very inspirational and educational. This is the podcast to listen to if you are looking for both inspiration and education on a variety of topics to help you be the best you can be. So definitely thank you, M. Davis. Appreciate you. If you want a chance to get shouted out on a future 12-hour live stream, go to beyourgps.com/iTunes or search Greatest Possible Self on the Apple Podcast Store. While you're there, subscribe. Keep getting all the latest and greatest updates, interviews, and grow yourself. That's what we're here to do. We're here to grow together. If you have any feedback, we love to hear that as well, how we can grow the show, how we can make it even better for you. So you can drop that in the review as well, or shoot me a message and let me know. I'm going to introduce Merritt in just a sec here. Before that, grab a piece of paper, grab a pen, be ready to take notes. This is going to be gold, empowering, uplifting, helping you become your GPS. So make sure you stay all the way through to the end, because one of these ideas that Merritt and I discuss and dive into can change everything for you. Let's introduce Merritt. Merritt Minnemeyer, CPC, ELI-MP, is the founder and creator of Master of One Coaching. Born in Northern California to a family with a strong entrepreneurial lineage, Merritt began her career in New York City as a performer, producer, and director, and quickly realized her passion for sharing inspiration with others by teaching arts-based strategies to kids and adults. After years of working with underserved communities, her interests pivoted into social justice and leadership development, first with youth and then with adults from all walks of life. Since then, she has developed and implemented a wide array of coaching and leadership programming in venues ranging from private corporations to government agencies, schools and districts, law enforcement, higher education, and nonprofit organizations all over the country. She believes the greatest asset that anyone can bring to their work is a clear understanding of how they can employ their gifts and talents to serve others and how to enjoy their work. And we're going to be diving into such a beautiful performance and an artistic, masterful expression with Merritt. Merritt, you ready to bring it?
I'm ready.
Yes, we are live. I'm becoming your greatest possible self, and we're going to dive into something I know you hold dear to your heart. Transformation. The patterns of transformation is the theme today, Merritt. So what does that mean to you, patterns of transformation?
Well, immediately I think, first of all, hello, Chris, and thanks for having me back. I really appreciate it. It's great to be here. I think about one of my superpowers that I've discovered is to be able to walk through other people's transformations with them in a way that is really, I just have a certain capacity to be able to support people and whatever they're going through. And I didn't discover that as really, I didn't think of that as anything specific until someone pointed it out to me. And when I think about why that is, it largely comes from my own transformation, right? Having my own personal experience with that. So transformation means to me being able to reckon with the reality that whatever is going on for that person, for me, it was, a certain situation that was, which was unbearable for me. Be able to really be honest about it and to really confront it, and then make a decision, as you said earlier, make a real true decision that I am no longer going to live this way. I'm going to choose something different. And then that's the very first thing to do, right? That's the very, like in the recovery community, they talk about, acknowledging is the first step, right? So you have to be aware of the problem before you can solve it. And so the transformation begins with that awareness. And a lot of people think that's the end of it, and that's it's not. It's not. It takes a lot of work from that point. But you have to have that moment of, I'm no longer going to put up with this crap. I'm choosing something new, and that really requires then rebuilding, really a whole life. If you're going to go through a transformation of any sort of meaning, it's going to be rebuilding your whole life.
Yeah, it's like being willing to give up everything that has defined us up until this point in the pursuit or for the sake of the best version of ourselves, the best life that we can live, our dream life, right? And I think it's incredible what can happen when it is unbelievable. It's strange. It's phenomenal when we make those kinds of declarations and decisions, how our lives transform and can transform. But like you said, it is the legwork that really we get to show up and make that decision, reinforce that decision every single day to say, I actually am committed to this. I actually am. This is actually who I am. This is the identity that I will not ever let go of. I will not tolerate myself not being this person anymore, because anything less than that sucks. It's not my greatest possible self. It's not my greatest potential. So I no longer allow that. And that's really powerful.
Yeah, it really is. And different, the sort of bottom moment is different for everybody, right? I mean, I've heard people say that well, this person didn't hit as hard of a bottom as I did. And so I can't even imagine why they would even want to change. And it's like, well, it's different for everybody, whatever their level of their threshold of tolerance or intolerance is. And also considering that, plus what we're really, as you said, really getting rid of stuff that isn't serving us, but it's not getting rid of half of it. Like, you really have to be unrelenting in your inventory of what is not working. And that is, it's hard. Sometimes it sucks. It's really painful to look at, oh my God, I really love that person or thing or environment or whatever it is. And yet I know it's not the right thing for me. So how do I let go of it? Or I really don't like that person or thing, but I know that this is the right moment for me to deal with that. So I have to go and face it and be honest with that and deal with it.
Yeah. Wow. So we're going to dive even more into this, into transformation, and especially, I know we wanted to talk today about people who might feel stuck, right? And feel like, man, I feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, but I'm not experiencing the results. We want to dive into extraordinary and leadership and all that good stuff. We're going to do that. But for everyone who's just getting connected with you, I mentioned a little bit about it in your intro, but in your own words, why don't you just share with them what you're up to today, how you're serving your clients today, Merritt?
Yeah. So what I'm up to today is that I'm focusing primarily on people who are, as you just said, 100% committed to becoming their own version of extraordinary. And I added that point of 100% committed because if you're not, you don't have to be, quote, ready, end quote, or know all the answers or even know all the questions to ask, right? You don't have to be at that point. But if you're not 100% committed to the work, it is not going to happen. And I really can't help that person. I really can't. I'm here to get really honest with that person and help them get honest with themselves. And if they're not 100% committed, when they're confronted, and I know this because I've gone through it too, and I continue to go through it. So if you're not 100% committed to that process, then you're going to shrink away from it. You're going to hide from it. You're going to avoid it. You're going to fall back on it. You're going to quit. It's going to be too hard. But if that commitment is there, that true, I just know that beyond any measure of doubt that I am going to get to this place where I need to go or want to go. I see it clearly enough that I know it's better on the other side. Then you're willing to do all the hard work, And I was facing some people who just weren't willing to go there. And I was like, I don't need to sell this. This is real. If you want it, great. If you don't, great. I don't need to sell somebody on their own transformation,
Yeah, I'm because I've had my own journey with this. Like, I just want to dive into this because it's been a big challenge for me, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah,
21
yeah.
years old, saying, okay, I want massive success in like network marketing, direct sales. Like, what do I have to do? Okay, I'm gonna go study. I'm gonna go attempt to make as many phone calls, warm connections, whatever I can do, right?
Hmm.
And so I thought in my head, I'm committed. I'll do whatever it takes, 100%. Let's go, right? But
Hmm.
then the actions didn't follow up with that. So
Right.
I'm sure that people say oftentimes, yeah, I'm 100% committed, and then they may not follow through it at that level. Like, how do we know who we are, what type we are, if we are 100%, if we're not, like, how does someone get through that questioning?
Yeah. So again, 100% committed does not mean that you know all the answers. It just means
Right.
that you're willing to trust in the relationship with me as the coach, right, or whoever you're working with, to to walk you through that. To really,
Mm,
like, if I'm going to confront you with something, you got to know that I'm doing that because you told me this is what
mm,
you wanted me to do. That we're in this partnership together. So you know, I have a coach too who does this with me, and I freaking hate it. It's really hard sometimes. And she's
yes.
just like, you're going to hate me for a while, but it's going to be okay. So, but I am, because I'm committed to that. And because I have
Mm,
clients who are committed to that. It's okay. Like, it's a
yeah.
safe place to screw up. It's a safe place to fall on your face. It's a safe
Mm,
place to, oh my God, I'm going to go out in the world. I'm going to see this thing play through, and I'm going to fail,
mm,
or it's not going to go the way I think it is.
mm,
But I'm going to learn from that, and I'm going to come back to you again, and I'm going to say, all right, let's do it. Try it again. I'm going to
mm,
try it again. We're going to try it again.
mm,
Think of it in terms of, the best quarterback out there, right? Super Bowl week. Um, I'm going to go back to Joe Montana because that's my age, and I grew up. I was a Niners girl growing up, so from California. So, like, there was a he didn't go out there without support. He had the
mm,
team, he had the fans, and he had coaching staff that was like with him all the time, saying, "Try this, try this, try this," and he kept trying and trying and trying, and sometimes it
mm,
worked, and sometimes it didn't. So it's
right.
not about getting it right all the time.
Mm,
It's not about not feeling crappy about it sometimes, because you're gonna. I mean, it's transformation, right?
right,
That's
right.
It's not like buying a different kind of cup of coffee, or like, I'm gonna like, I'm gonna go buy this color blue shoes instead of red today. Like, that's not what we're talking about here. We're
Yeah.
talking about changing your whole life,
Mm,
because Chris, you said, you did, right, at one point, say, I know that I can do better, make
mm,
better, right? I
mm.
know I can.
What's the difference between someone who temporarily gets knocked down and defeated and someone who quits? Because I mean, even if someone quits for 5 years, is that, and then gets back in the ring, is that just getting knocked down, or is that quitting? How do we deal with that?
Well, that's a great question. And I think that, yeah, I mean, it's getting knocked down. It also has to do with, um, quitting isn't necessarily a bad thing,
Mm,
you know?
yeah.
I- if we had this bad connotation. Sorry, my computer is like giving me all these alerts all of a sudden.
It's
We had
okay.
this connotation around quitting, like, oh, well, that's a person's a quitter, and they were committed or whatever. But sometimes something isn't worth pursuing,
Mm,
and that's
mm,
okay. It's okay to come to that decision. It's okay to say, you know what, I put my heart and soul into this,
yeah.
but it isn't feeling like me anymore. It's not
Mm,
feeling like. I mean, I kind of did that with my first career, really. I went all in
yeah.
on the performing career. I mean, you think the guy, you think I'm hustling now, right? With my business, like, um, I was so, like, night and day, 24/7, not sleeping, like I was, but eating and breathing theater all the time, all day long, and
Mm,
everybody around me was in the same boat. And it was exciting and wonderful and inspirational, and it was also miserable
mm,
because I wasn't I wasn't getting that feeling that I wanted to have of success. And it wasn't that I
mm,
wasn't making progress in my career, because I was,
right.
but there was something about it that just wasn't right, and I wasn't sure what it was.
Mm,
And so I ultimately looked at that, and I had to really be honest, because that was a tough thing for me. It was a really deep intrinsic part of my identity that I'd grown up with, right? And we
yeah.
do this, right? We got to get our claws in something, or our hooks into something, and we think, this is who I am.
Mm, yeah.
I identified, I am an actor, I'm a director, producer, writer, I
Mm,
am a coach, I
mm,
am a I am a business person, right? That is my identity. Well, no, actually it's not,
mm,
right? Our identity is, we are who we are first, not what we do or what we have. We are who we are first.
mm,
So and that's taken me a long time to learn. I learned that from grit coaching too. So, um, but I had to look at that and become so honest with myself, and decide, it's just acting is not it. And that was really painful for me.
Mm.
And then I did it again, and I was like, nonprofits, this is what I do. I've been done it for 20 years, but it's not it.
Mm.
And so I quit those things, right?
Yeah.
But I did that in favor of something greater. So is it quitting, or is it just change for transformation? I mean, quitting is one thing where you're like, you have a goal and you just don't have the strength at that moment in time to keep pursuing it. That's one thing,
Mm.
right? But change, to give up something, is not inherently bad,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And I also think for me, what I've experienced is like, what am I willing to give up to achieve this goal, right? Like for
Right.
me, it always felt like I wanted to achieve these financial goals. Sometimes it was I wanted relationship goals, significant other. And then I
Mm-hmm.
said, well, do I actually want to go out and date, right? Do I actually want to dedicate time to this, or is working on myself more important? I say I want a significant other. Am I willing to put in the relationship, dating, time and
Mm-hmm.
energy into cultivating those relationships, And same
Mm-hmm.
thing even with business, with money. It's like, am I willing to make it a non-negotiable to prioritize my money, my saving,
Right.
my management, financial education, investing education, different things like that. And I think a lot of people were under the delusion, so to speak, that we want to, or people want to achieve things, but are they actually taking the actions? Are they actually aligned with that belief? And so
Yeah.
that's what I think can be tricky with the 100% committed. I love it. I love that statement. I think when we reaffirm that, it creates power. And there's
Mm-hmm.
also the dealing with reality, which is important as well, which today it can be difficult to manifest things and be in alignment and speak into existence, as well as, hey, what is actually so, and how do I start to take steps on this? How do I make a tangible plan of action? How do I make tangible progress on
That's
that? It can
right.
be difficult to
Yeah.
balance both of those.
It definitely can be. And also looking at the motivation behind what the goals are, right? So,
Mm,
like, if the motivation is because I want to become the best, your greatest possible self, right?
right, right.
If I want to transform into some different, more evolved version of myself,
Yeah.
like, that's motivation that's very empowering.
Mhm.
If the motivation is, I should, my parents want me to, my culture dictates that I should, I'm going to be ashamed if I don't, right? If I don't
Mm,
have this degree, if I don't have this much money, if I don't, whatever. If shame is the motivator,
mm,
or guilt, or
mm,
fear,
mm.
man, that's going to eat away at you so fast, right? And that is a surefire way to, you may not quote fail unquote at meeting your goal. You might reach your goal, but it's not going to
Mm.
be any fun, and
Nope.
it's going to be so much harder.
Yeah, yeah.
You
It's
won't
it's
enjoy
it's
it.
going to be this empty
Yeah.
achievement, right? Versus enjoying the journey all along the way. Like, how do I be grateful for where I'm at right now? And I think that I wonder if when you were in your performing career, if it was like, I need to make it somewhere before I will feel
Definitely.
fulfilled, right? Versus
Definitely.
I just love to do this just because. And I wonder, like, there's no wrong way our journeys unfold, but I'm curious what would have happened to your journey, your career in performing, if you would have started with that foundation that you have.
Oh,
You have this beautiful foundation of how you serve people and the energy and being on the journey, being so grateful. You're a beautiful coach, powerful freaking coach, Merritt.
thanks.
And I just think it's fascinating to look back, but there's no way we could change that, but we can notice what would have made the difference and then choose differently, commit differently, decide differently moving forward.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what the difference was for me is that I realized that I wasn't doing it for myself.
Mm,
I realized that
yeah.
very early on, I was doing it as a kid because I got attention,
Yep.
and I was pretty good at it. So it was allowed me to be successful socially, allowed me to be successful in school, in my school groups,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
I got to be in front of people, which I like still,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And but it but I had so much anxiety over the actual act of performing in those ways. Like, when I get up and talk in front of people now, I don't have any. I get
Mm.
excited. I'm not. I'm
Yes.
not anxious about it. I mean, I might be a little anxious if it's like a new group or a bigger group or whatever. But, like, at the end of the day, I'm totally psyched to be there.
Yeah. Yeah.
when I was performing, I was not. I was terrified. I mean, and I had some fun. I'm not gonna say it was all miserable, but like I was, it was really, really difficult. It was always a super challenge for me just to get on stage because it was
Mm,
so anxiety producing for me. And the payoff was just not there. Whereas
mm,
now I just have so much more fun. It's just flows easier. It's more effortless, you know.
mm, Yeah, I think we get to find out what is our unique music that we perform, so to speak, or performance
Yeah,
acting, drawing, art, whatever
yeah,
that we would do, whether people are looking or not. And I think that's
right.
something a lot of people are not connected with. That
Hmm.
they could really get some massive insight about who do I want to be when I'm in my room alone. How do I want to feel? You know, like when
Hmm.
I'm out in the wilderness, the forest, the mountains, the ocean, wherever I'm at, like how do I want to feel? How do I want to be? And I think reconnecting with that humanity, nature, things like that. It's always a really good place to go with what do I want to feel? How do I want to be?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that is in its own right extraordinary. So
Mm,
when I talk to people about being extraordinary, I'm not saying you have to go out and be the next leader of the free world. What I'm
mm,
saying is live your life on your terms with this extraordinary sense of purpose, of
mm,
belonging, of putting yourself first in a way that takes care of you so that you can carry out whatever your purpose is. That's not how we're trained in Western
mm,
culture. And so it is unusual at best. And the extraordinary life is one that is certainly examined, right? We've heard
mhm,
that,
mhm.
and reflected upon, but also fully lived,
Yeah.
fully engaged, right? Fully breathed into. And yeah, so it's not about, you don't have to be some, great leader. I mean, and everybody's a leader in their own life,
Mhm,
right? So
mhm.
we can talk a lot about that. We learned that from lots of different coach trainings and stuff. Um, but wherever you are, wherever you have influence, even if it's in your own family, you can
Mm,
still be the extraordinary version of you because you're present,
yeah.
because you love being there, right? Like you said, alone in your room, you are joyful just by being there, right? That's extraordinary.
Mm, mm. I love
Yeah,
this. I love it. You
yeah.
mentioned examined and reflected upon, right? To like look and notice what we're
Mhm.
doing, but also to live it. And
Yes.
I think everyone's at a different place on their journey, so to speak.
Hmm.
How would you coach someone who's not necessarily examining or reflecting, and then how would you coach someone who is way more like living, or so someone's not doing the reflecting versus someone who's not doing the living? How like being out there, fully expressed, fully embodied? What would you recommend to each of those types of people?
Ooh, well, those are big questions. Well, the first, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is I would say kind of the same way,
Okay.
right? I
Okay.
mean, if you're asking about method or like what questions I would
Yeah.
ask, um, so for the person who is not living in a reflective way so far, but they're asking for that.
Mhm.
We start simply. We look at values right
Mm,
away. What's important to you, because that's the lens through which you're going to be able to identify what makes you light up,
mm.
right?
Yeah.
What makes you the happiest?
Yeah.
What makes you feel most excited? What makes you feel most grounded, right? Most calm. And things that coming up that are like family, or it's like creativity, or it's love, or it's trust, or any of those things. And there's 100 different, maybe more than those. We could look at the values, and then from there we kind of follow our follow the path into
Mhm.
what the already activities now that we're doing in our lives that are bringing those values to bear.
Mm,
And usually, what happens is that if somebody is really feeling challenged, overwhelmed, exhausted, stressed, they're not following through on their values,
mm,
um, or what their stated values are,
yeah.
right? What they hold most dear. Um, there's a saying that goes something like, "If you really want to know a person, you got to check their bank account or their checking book and their calendar, like where they're
Calendar. Yeah.
spending most of their time and their money." Right.
Mm.
So you might say, "Oh, it's really important to me to attend to my spiritual practice." "Oh, really? What do you do for that?" "Oh, well, once a month I spend 15 minutes." Um, it's really right. So if that really is important, and I don't mean to make fun of that because
Right.
people get overwhelmed, and that's that happens all the time.
Mhm.
But but you laugh because it seems obvious.
Yeah.
But when you're in it and you're living that way, it does not seem obvious until somebody points it out. Oh, shoot. Oh, right. No wonder I feel depleted. I would want to feel empty because the spirituality that is so important to me, I'm not attending to it all.
Mm.
But it's different for everyone. It's not, not everyone is going to want to attend to it the same way.
Mm.
And there are some kind of basic infrastructure kind of things to being a human being that people tend to tend to, right? Spirituality being one of them. But everyone's going to have a different kind of priority set around that.
Mm. Yeah.
So does that answer your question for that first part?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And then from there, we would build a strategy. Strategy sounds very technical, but we would look at what makes you happy, what makes you excited, what makes you joyful, what you need to attend to, what your responsibilities are, what your schedule is like, what your finances are, and then where you want to head with those things. What is the transformation you want to make? And we build a step-by-step program for you.
Beautiful.
For the person who's really living, they're extraordinary already, and they want to keep pushing it. I always think of Richard Branson when I think about this, because the guy is like living like woo, right?
Yes.
Really at the top of his game. I think the greatest question you can ask is what's next. What's next? Because the person like that is already pretty good at making things happen. They're already pretty good at identifying and deciphering what's going to work and what doesn't, or at least what feels good and what doesn't feel good, right? What's fun and what isn't fun, what is fulfilling and what isn't. They're already pretty good at that, and they're well willing to beta test it because they have confidence that if they screw it up or if it doesn't work out the way they hope, then oh well, it's not a big deal. So then we just kind of get bigger and bigger and bigger. What if you want to go? I like to climb trees. Okay, where haven't you climbed trees yet? Oh, I haven't climbed trees yet in Tanzania. Great, let's go to Tanzania, right? Right? I'm being silly. Or it could be just, I love building businesses. Great. What kind of businesses have you not built yet that you'd like to? Right? Which is more practical than the climbing trees, but.
It's awesome though. I think it's really getting reconnected with the sense of possibility, like that this world, this universe that we're in. Some people say, well, wouldn't you get bored if you lived 1,000 years or whatever? I was like, heck no, there's so much to do.
Hey, man.
Never get bored.
There's way so much to do.
There's always more to explore.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned the values are important, and then we talked a little bit about leading and being extraordinary. What else is in this newer season of life? Like, what else is important around being extraordinary, living an extraordinary, and leading an extraordinary life, and leading others in that process?
Yeah. So the leading part is really where it's tricky for people because they believe. I think there's not just they. I shouldn't say that they, but there is an understanding in our culture that work is separate than life, and in fact, that is just not the case. We are the same body that goes from place to place, and the same brain, and the same spirit, and the same right? We take us wherever we go. So when we're thinking of ourselves as leaders in leadership positions, it's still us there. It's not a different. It may be a different mask that we're wearing, or a different name tag, or whatever it is. But there's not. We're still us, and so. In order to be the most effective leader we can be wherever we are, we need to be whole. We need to be whole. And if we're trying to lead transformation in an organization or in a family system or in whatever it is, our social groups, whatever it is, or in social justice arenas, right? If we are trying to lead transformation or we are leading transformation in those areas, we need to be actively engaged in transformation ourselves. And we need to make sure that our integrity is in line with those goals.
Yes.
So if it's not, then it falls apart so fast, right? And we see this happen over and over and over again. I mean, in politics right now, I'm not going to make any grand sweeping statements here about politics, except for that where we see the breakdown is almost without exception where someone has not followed through with what their stated intention, right?
Yep.
And that's what integrity is, right? Integrity is stating a goal, following through with that goal, right? Or giving your word, following through with that word, That's what integrity is. Or renegotiating it before you get there, because you have, being able to set a different course or whatever, but before you're expected to complete it, right?
Yep.
That's also part of integrity. So the integrity of, I can give my word and say, oh gosh, I said this, but I'm not going to be able to complete it. Let's set a new deadline, right? I'm still in my integrity if I do that.
Right.
But if I'm leading an organization and I say everybody needs to have it by the deadline,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm over there in the corner drinking coffee and not screwing around and not
Mm-hmm.
participating in the deadline, the project, well, there's no way that I'm going to have my influence is not going to, well, actually I will have influence, and the influence is going to be, that guy's a jerk.
Right.
Right.
The influence is that there's not alignment. There's the words, thoughts,
Yeah.
and actions don't match. So how can it creates like instability, distrust in the organization to say, well, if they're not going to do what they said, then I'm going to do whatever the heck I want, and
Yeah.
it's like, or it becomes uncertain. It's like, well, I can't trust that. I'm going to retreat. I'm going to retract. I'm going to, keep
Mm-hmm.
myself away from expressing myself or exposing myself or whatever it might be, being vulnerable, being real, being authentic.
Yep. Self-preservation, fear-based tactics.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of anger, it comes out of the fear stuff, right? Where fear makes us look vulnerable, so we'll turn it into anger instead, and then we get scared at work, because when we're talking about work, and I do work a lot with people in work situations, it's their livelihood, it's how you survive, right? Survival instinct that gets triggered by leaders who are stable or unstable, right? So unstable. So it really is so important that when people go to work, whether again it's for pay or it's for whatever they're doing, something they believe in, that they don't you can't just tell somebody what to do and expect them to do it. You have to be willing to go in there with them and do it too, and show them, or at least be with the people that you're leading in a way that is authentically supportive, that is aligned with the mission, that is showing them that you are 100%, 100% committed. And that's my go-to phrase these days, to whatever the goal is, so that they can buy in too, right? That's the foundation for whatever goal you're after.
Yeah. Can you
commitment.
share?
And again, it's not that you won't fail or won't screw up or won't need to redesign your course. It just means that you're going to get there.
Yeah. Can you share an example of like when people were not living or leading extraordinary, someone you were working with, client, organization, something like that? You don't have to name specifics, but just like something where they weren't being extraordinary, and then what was done so that they could get back into alignment with that and integrity with their culture and values.
Yeah. So I'm not going to name any names, but I will say that I have a client who, everything was going really well for the first part of the year, and hitting some incredible financial goals that they hadn't hit before, and things were just going like gangbusters. And then something pivoted there, where their partner left for a certain amount of time, and the client felt like they didn't express this and didn't really even know it, right? But somehow felt like they were all of a sudden left holding the bag with everything else that needed to be done. And that triggered something in the client that was really profound and deep, and they didn't even really notice it right away. It kind of unfolded slowly. But as things began to unravel bit by bit by bit, we got to the end of the year, and it was, really kind of in a crisis situation financially, because over the last several months prior to that, there was personal stuff that was happening, there was financial stuff that was happening, there was something happening in the business that was just like, it kept bit by bit unraveling, because that there was an untended fear, broken or damaged part of her system, this client's system, that was that just was intended to, and we didn't even realize what was happening until we got pretty far down that road.
Right.
So, and this person, I will say, is indeed 100% committed, like without any question. Like this client is like going to the moon,
yes.
and it's going to happen. Yeah. So, and they did feel like quitting. They did feel like giving up. And I got a few texts and calls that were like, I don't know if I can do this. And then they come back the next day and be like, no, 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 I just had a moment. I'm good now.
Yeah.
But what we are doing now is really getting back down to the basics. What are those values? What are those principles? Where am I? What really worked? What didn't? And this kind of line of bottom was like, this is not going to happen again.
Yeah.
Like I've seen this cycle happen so many times. It's not going to happen again. And the commitment was reinvigorating.
When I was going to say, when someone has a defeat, so to speak, or a setback or something that doesn't go as planned, I think a lot of people have a challenge with integrating the learning from things, and they might experience it multiple times. Like, what would you recommend to those people so they don't keep making the same mistake or keep having to relearn the same lesson over and over?
Well, I mean, we choose our lessons, right? So, the lessons will keep coming back until we decide to confront it and change it. So if you have to keep learning the same lesson over and over, again, that piece of awareness, I've got to be able to identify it. I've got to, what is this thing that I don't want to happen anymore? Like, so with this client, it was like, I recognize now that where I am financially is, if I look back in the last 4 or 5 months, I now see how I got here. And now I can do analysis on it. We couldn't see it at the time, but now I see it. So if a person is if they're aware enough to say, I'm learning this lesson over and over again, then we can then look at that piece of, I'm aware of the lesson and understand, not even so much why I need to learn it, but what is the lesson? What is the lesson? Like, what is the cycle? What is the actual information I'm getting here? Without me even getting to like super psychological deep why, what is the information I'm getting here? Because information comes in emotions, it comes in physical pain, it comes in thought, it comes from other people, right? But it's all just information. So if the actual information of the lesson is, the more you behave this way with money, the worse off it's going to get, then okay, now I understand. The information is I need to change the way I am with money. Like I know your previous guests are talking about money, right? And we all have those messages about all kinds of things.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if I'm making totally answering your question the way you want me to, but I think that to be able to really identify clearly what the information is in the lesson, and then to make a decision if you want to change it or not. And sometimes we don't want to change it. Sometimes we're more comfortable being uncomfortable than we are being awesome.
Yeah. And I think what comes to mind is like, once we learn the lesson, we have to clearly identify what it is. It's the commitment to change, the decision to change, and a specific strategy or approach or action, set of behaviors, activities that make the difference, right? And so something that I think a lot of I went through, and I think a lot of people go through, is fear of rejection, especially as entrepreneurs, like to be rejected, to like sales and stuff like that. And so if someone continues to learn the lesson, or the lesson is attempting to be taught, don't care more about what other people think than how you care about yourself, how much you love yourself, valuing yourself. Like, what if that lesson it keeps coming and someone's finances have been struggling or whatever it might be, and this is not everyone's challenge, but I know a lot of people struggle with self-esteem and self-image and fear of rejection. What is the approach that's going to break you through that block, that resistance? Like, what is the strategy? How are you going to go make yourself like bulletproof, create rhino skin to rejection? Like, what are you going to do differently? Because it could just be, hey, I'm going to go, jump on sales calls and, share and make bold, powerful asks. But oftentimes I don't think that it's what's the word? It's not that it's easy. It's not practical to say, okay, I'm just going to change who I'm being in every sales conversation moving forward. That can be done, but oftentimes I think that there needs to be a hardening phase. At least this is for me. This is a totally specific example, but hardening phase of like, how do you break through that fear? What does it look like to break through, right? What does it look like to demonstrate I have broken through this? So for me, when I was 20-ish years old, 21, I went to Cal State Fullerton in Southern California, and I asked 50 random women for their phone number because I was afraid of rejection, right? And I just, like, I'd ask, and whether they gave it to me or not, I didn't care. I was there for the exercise, not to actually get the phone number, right?
Right.
That would have been nice, but I didn't care. I was like, okay, on to the next one, you know? So that was like my training ground to not care what people thought about me and care about rejection. So it's like, what can we design in our life that helps us break through those things? I think it's important to think about, like, to go through that grind, so to speak, or the really difficult temporary process. So on the other side, it's like, man, what used to be so difficult for me, now I'm on the other side. I know I got this. I know I can crush it. I know that I have everything that I need, whatever it might be.
Yeah. So can I ask you a question about that?
Yeah.
So what exactly did that do for you, going to ask the 50 girls for phone numbers?
Yeah.
How did your mindset change from the time you went into the time you came out of that exercise?
Yeah. So there was so much anxiety simply around the idea of going up to someone and asking for something, right? And so by the end of that, it was, I think it's a muscle. It's still, even to this day, I'm still like developing that muscle, the willingness to just go strike up a conversation, the fluidity of that, the flow of that. But by the 50th person that I asked, 50th woman, it was so easy. It was so easy. I went up and I asked, like, it's like my mind knew, hey, you've done this before. It's not going to kill you. It actually became an adrenaline rush to just keep doing it, because like my mind knew, well, hey, if there was all this stored, stuck energy and fear and anxiety around asking, let's take that energy and transmute it into feeling good. If Chris isn't going to stop doing this action of asking women, he keeps going. Let's make it enjoyable. If he likes it, if this body is supposed to keep doing it, then we're gonna align the body with the mindset to help Chris, this identity Chris, to be able to keep doing it. So it was a trip.
Yeah. So that's great what you said about, like, you had all this anxiety about it at first, right? And then you kind of went through built up your muscle, and now you're still working on it, because we always get better and better. If we work on it. But the thing is about anxiety, right? Anxiety and fear, they live in the unknown, right? Okay. So they live in the what if. What if this happens? What if that happens, right? And we always go to the worst case scenario. So what you started doing for your brain was giving it new information. If I do this once, oh wait, the pavement didn't blow up where I was standing, right? Right. She didn't call 911 and report me as an axe murderer. Right. I didn't get arrested. I didn't, right? Lightning didn't strike, whatever. So it gives you new information, right? I went out there and I did it, and it was okay, and it was okay, and it's okay. And that's where we start to build confidence. Because fear, what keeps us from building that confidence is not knowing, not having the information to fall back on. That it's going to be okay, that we can make it work out, right? So I mean, so there definitely is that aspect of just like practice and attention to it, and doing it over again through routine and diligence, and that's an excellent, I mean, it starts small and it doesn't happen overnight. That's the other thing that people think, oh, I'm going to grow up, I'm going to wake up tomorrow and everything's going to be different, I'm going to be a millionaire and get rich quick and pay this person and they're going to make me like fabulously rich. No, that's it took me, I'm 43 years old. It's taken me 43 years to get to this point in my life. Now, hopefully it won't take me 43 years to get to the next goal, because I have more time and I have more consciousness around it. Right. It took you 50 tries to get to the point where you feel okay to approach somebody. Right. It didn't take you 20, 21 years, but it took you conscious attention. To attending that to one specific goal.
It's working the muscle, It's like how fast we grow whatever the muscle is, whether it's asking, whether it's a physical muscle, whether it's copywriting, whatever, that speaking on stage, interviewing, right? It's a muscle, and it's the decision to put conscious focus and attention to it to develop that muscle.
And there's another element to this too, which is the context within which we are working emotionally and sort of psychologically. And I've been doing a lot of work on this lately too, is what is the conversation that we're having in every aspect of our life? Somebody recently pointed out to me that I was living in a context of shame.
Mm.
And I had never, I mean, and that was like, it was heartbreaking to me because I was like, oh my God, what are you talking about? I'm not ashamed. I'm confident. I'm good at this stuff. And she was like, but wait a minute. What do you think to yourself when this happens?
Mm.
And and the more I was able to identify it, I was like, oh my God, you're right. Everything about my life through my filter is about being ashamed or fighting the feeling of being
Yeah.
ashamed.
Yeah.
Ha! You know how much energy it takes to fight that all the time? I mean, it's like, and when I finally am able to start breaking it down, I'm still working on it, but the energy that I have now
Mm.
that is freed up
Yeah.
is unbelievable. And I think even maybe a year ago, if someone said that to me, I would have been like, no way, I am not ashamed. I'm not a victim. I'm strong. I'm confident, right? I would have had all kinds of like, but then in my mind, I would have
Wow.
been like, I hope they don't find out that I really am scared, right?
Mm.
And I didn't even realize the power and the potency of that conversation that was constantly running in my head about everything. My body, my hair, my face, my clothes, my pets, my house, my whatever, you know? Holy cow. And then I finally now identify, oh, that's shame. Oh,
Mm.
well, I don't need that anymore. Right. And all of a sudden, I'm releasing it in all these different aspects. And boy, is life more fun.
Mm.
Like just making that context shift.
I want to talk
Yeah.
about that, the freed up energy, right? Like I talked about it with my anxiety and turned into this adrenaline rush, right?
Yes.
Um, when let's talk about what people can experience when they like reach these breakthroughs, they break through their ceilings, they break through to whole new levels. Like what changes? What changes about their energy, about their capacity, about their ability to be the best version of themselves? What do you think?
Oh gosh. Well, I mean, I think that I had a client to say this to me today. She said, I'm living in a whole new version of what's possible.
Hmm.
And, my whole world has been this one certain way for so long. We just had this conversation just this morning. And all of a sudden now I understand my world can be totally different. I had no even awareness of what this other kind of way of being was.
Hmm.
And now I have a whole new understanding of how people operate and what they're doing with their time and how they want to live their life and how their families operate. And it's like it, and she's in her 60s,
Hmm.
so it's not like she hasn't been around, and lived a very full life, which she has, and she's continuing to. um, but there's always opportunity to learn more, to peel back the layers, to like understand new ways of being in the world,
Hmm.
new experiences, new connections with people, new relationships to whatever's important to us. It's kind of hard to put into words other than just to let the feeling of being lighter and more excited and more motivated to do whatever it is that you want to do, and feeling like it's like it goes from a maybe someday, or maybe I'd always wanted to but I'll never get there, to
Hmm.
oh, I can do that. Yeah, I mean, and to understand the connection between, like, if you're dreaming about something, if it's coming to you in your mind, if I have an idea that's recurring and recurring and recurring, listen to that. That's where things happen,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Walt Disney didn't just like wave his magic wand and make things happen, right? He had an idea and he followed that idea.
Yeah. Yeah. Love
My
it.
dad was an architect, same thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
He just
Oh,
drew. He didn't build the buildings, but he drew the plans, and then all of a sudden, right,
boom.
magically, with the with
Magically.
the incredible team of people,
Yeah.
those buildings went from being pencil on a paper, well, being from idea to pencil on a paper to a blueprint to an actual building.
Hmm.
That's how that process happens. If you have an idea, see it through.
Yeah. For someone who is listening and they feel like, okay, they're starting to be a good leader of themselves, hold themselves accountable, show up and do things, and there's still room to grow, and they have
Yeah, always.
aspirations of being more of a community leader, a leader
Yeah.
on a more global, impactful scale. Like, what would you recommend is something that's important for them to be able to grow themselves and their capacity to that kind of a level?
Hmm. Well, first and foremost, I want to go back to that leader must be a whole person.
Mm.
That leader, they don't have to be a perfect person, but they must be whole.
Mm.
And that means that they are fully aware of where their strengths are, where they need help, where they need support, and they must be willing to confront that honestly all the time.
Mm.
Um, a really effective leader is not somebody who does everything for everybody. That is not an effective leader. That is somebody headed for burnout fast, and then they're going to be gone, right? Because they're not going to be helpful to anybody. A really effective leader is somebody who speaks, um, gives their word, right? And is able, has the strength, has the integrity, has the vision, has the clarity, and has the physical and or mental and or financial and or people power, whatever the resources are. They have the ability to harness all the resources that they need and make that word come to life, make it happen, so that they can carry the mission with truth and with dignity and with clarity of purpose, right?
Mm.
If a person is struggling with their integrity in their life somewhere else,
Mm.
they're going to struggle with it in leadership too.
Yeah.
If they're struggling with their if they're struggling with relationships at home, they're probably going to be struggling with it out in the world too. And and there, but you have all kinds of examples of where you see this kind of black and white, um, night and day thing happening. Like we just celebrated Martin Luther King Day, right? He was, known to not have the strongest um, marriage, right, or partnership, in the sense that he struggled a lot. He had, maybe that marriage was strong, but it wasn't perfect. I'll say that it wasn't perfect. Same with Nelson Mandela, right? Not a perfect marriage. And he would say that out loud. Right? These were not perfect people, right? But they were willing to pull the resources, to pull what they could, and really make sure that whatever they were saying was going to come to fruition, right? For the people they were leading. Yeah. And then where the things were falling apart was when that's what they really struggled with. There was the demons that kept them from being as strong as they could be, right? So everybody can be stronger. And of course, those examples are extraordinary in their own right. And they're great because everybody knows them, but they're also great because they were imperfect,
What's the difference between a weakness or an area that we're not strong in, that isn't like working, and like what's the balance between having to fix that or repair that or grow that area, and just saying it's good enough, and I will bring in someone else who's strong where I'm weak to be able to complement or fill that gap? Like what's the difference between a weakness that is like a character flaw and something saying, hey, I'm just not skilled at copywriting or whatever, I'm going to bring in
right?
someone to help me with that?
Yeah, that's a really good question because everybody has character flaws, and everybody has weaknesses, and everybody has places where they need support. So it really is about what the needs are of, like, if I'm a leader of an organization, right? I'm a leader of a company, and I have a weakness in my ability to sustain relationships, and it's like work relationships. That's going to have a negative impact on the people I'm leading, right? So at that point, do I engage a therapist or a coach and work on my relationships? Probably. You can't really hire that out. I mean, you can hire somebody who's like the public relations person or the HR person, sure, but that doesn't mean that you're off the hook for relationships, right? But if I'm the head of a company, and I see this in nonprofits a lot too, if I'm the executive director of a company and I'm really good with people, but I'm not great at the financial part. I need to make sure that I am still engaging and learning and becoming better and better and better at that. Yeah. And also, I better have somebody who's really, really strong on the financial part, right? Yeah. So that's the difference between an external skill and a sort of an internal, I don't want to say flaw, but like there are things that have greater impact in character than the external skills. So I guess if we have another example, like if we look at marketing versus copywriting versus fundraising in a nonprofit, right? Like the executive director has to have a good, solid knowledge of all of those things, but doesn't really have to have an expertise in any of them. But they have to be really good at is communicating clearly and building relationships and managing staff, right? Making sure that their staff is happy and really being a good leader in the community and of their staff. That's what they have to be good at. So that's mentoring. That's setting clear goals. That's communicating clearly, right? They don't have to be the marketing expert, right? But they do have to be a whole leader. And that's an ever evolving process. That's not something that ever stops. Yeah,
I agree. Merritt, this has been a blast. Let's wrap it up with a final takeaway around lead with extraordinary, or if we didn't touch on anything, you just want to recap on something we already touched. Let's bring it home.
Yeah. So for me, what lead with extraordinary means is it's not just being a leader in an organization or in a social group or whatever, and meaning that you have to be an extraordinary at everything all the time. What it means is when you're putting one foot in front of the other, lead with the idea for yourself, like, that you can make an extraordinary choice. You can make an extraordinary goal. You can make an extraordinary day or help somebody else create that day for themselves. The idea that it's created and that if it's inside you, it can be more than you. It can come out of you and be real. That to have the courage, not I heard this today too, not confidence is earned and built over time, but courage you can have once. And you can have it again and again in different situations. Confidence comes from having courage to build it.
Consistently,
consistently over time. So lead with extraordinary means, what does extraordinary mean to you? And go for it. Be willing to commit to that. And engage help. I'm certainly here. Send me an email, and I am off. I still have a couple spots left in my roster, not many, but a couple. So if you're looking to do that, if anybody out there is looking to do that, I'm your girl. Give me a call, and we'll work on that for you. But at any rate, if someone can really just have the courage to say, this one area, I want to be extraordinary. I'm going to be the best parent that I can be today. And that's extraordinary because the world is not, on the whole, that's not happening, right? We're not pushing ourselves to be better on the whole. There are certainly examples of people that are, but so that in itself, that question of what can I do better is extraordinary, I think.
I love it. Merritt, absolutely. How do they get in contact with you? What's your website? What can they do to stay connected?
Yeah, my website is www.masterofonecoaching, all one word, masterofonecoaching.com. I have an Instagram handle. It's at masterofonecoaching. On Facebook, it is facebook.com/masterofonecoaching. You're getting a theme here. And my email is my first name, Merritt, MERRITT, at masterofonecoaching.com. And I do have a Facebook page that's just for the coaching practice. So not my personal one, but my professional page there. So any of those channels you can get me. I have a calendar on my website if you want to set up with an interview with me. We can talk about your project or your goals, and we can do that. I'm happy to do that. I do see clients online like this, on video chat, on the phone, and in person. I live here in the Hudson Valley, but I have clients all over the country. So yeah.
I love it. Merritt, you're doing amazing things for the world. Thank you so much. Thank you for bringing this extraordinary conversation to us to help us be better leaders. Thank you for the dialogue, just diving in. It was super powerful. So thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you. And you are doing extraordinary things for the world too, my friend. So I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. And I will come back anytime you'll have me.
Yes, it's happening. I appreciate you. Have an amazing 2020, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. All right, you too. Thanks, Chris.